Hey, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us on this live premiere of the Lead Different podcast. Today we have with us Raeanne Lacatena, and I cannot wait to share this podcast. Raeanne has such an amazing journey that she's been on to get to where she is right now as a coach, as a holistic life coach. So it's been so much fun getting to know her, getting to meet some of the folks in her network. Jonathan Sheldon and I have had a couple of great conversations. Raeanne, welcome to the podcast premiere.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
You know, this I was very much looking forward. By the way, thank you for a great LinkedIn post this week. You talked a lot about discovering your why and
Mhm.
how you and I, kind of hit it off because we tend to be very similar, and that happens, right? When we tend to be attracted to people that think like us. Or that we have things in common with.
Mhm.
So thank you for that post. What kind of comments have you gotten on that, or and have you also shared your why discovery with other people?
I haven't done that yet, but it's certainly something that we're talking about both internally behind the scenes in the business and front stage, because it's just the truth that the why is the start of it all. And when we get clear who we are internally
Right.
first, the external world just goes so much more smoothly. It's so much more fun. We're so much more aligned. And yeah, it's true that you attract the people that you have some similarities with, but remember, there's also a little bit of differences that keep that variety as the spice of life too. So it's this nice blend of we have enough common ground that we meet in those really core important principles and values. We also have enough differences to offer each other so that we can learn from each other and grow with each other. And that's where I really have the most fun.
And I think what's important is that self-awareness, right? I think it's not a magical formula. And I was reading somebody posted, self-awareness is kind of an overused term right now, but it is so
Different.
important for us to understand who we are. Oh, look, we were going to premiere the episode a little early. We're getting to that. I know Chanel, our producer, was ready to go with that. But I am someone else that we're going to I think we're going to premiere soon is Dr. Nia Thomas. She wrote a book called The Self-Awareness Superhighway, and we're going to have her here in a couple of weeks on the show. But she everything she does starts with self-awareness, and there's so many tools out there, right, that we can use to become more self-aware. You come at it from a totally different perspective because you've got a very unique background.
Mhm.
Tell for those that we're gonna cover it in the show, but for those that are listening live, you want to tell us a little bit about where your background is and how you're using it in your current work.
Yeah, well, I still consider myself a social worker, which is where I began my career. I started in social work and counseling and actually in pediatric palliative care. And I proudly talk about the fact that I use everything that I learned in my social work career and in pediatric palliative care every single day with the clients that I serve. That those all of those experiences that I had shaped who I am now and how I deliver care and how I speak about business and how I speak about life and how we are one human being having lots of experiences. And sometimes those experiences are going to be favorable and sometimes they're not. And either way, here we are, we're humans having that experience and we get to make what we want to make of it.
Yeah, and I think you bring again. I mean, pediatric palliative care. I can't even imagine. We'll get into that in the interview, but as you said, all of those experiences helped shape who you are today, and probably is a big reason why you're such a successful and such a great coach to the clients that you serve, because you've got a perspective that is unlike any other. I have a feeling. I practice gratitude every day, but I have a feeling with the background that you have, gratitude has got to play a huge role
Yeah.
in your life.
It certainly does. And it surprises me just how deeply you can move into that simple practice. It seems just be thankful. It seems like a very surface level practice at first glance, but it continues to deepen. And the
Right.
practice every single year, I get more and more surprised about just how much there is to be grateful for and just how magical something as simple as gratitude can be. So yes, that's one of my primary practices. And there's so much to it neurochemically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially. It just runs the gamut if we really lean into it deeply.
It's interesting. I'm going to ask you because I have a gratitude practice. I journal every morning.
Mhm.
and I talk about 7 different things, and I make sure I write 3 bullets on these 7 different things that I'm grateful for. What I find is that I cannot do that and not come out of there smiling.
Mhm.
I get in my prayer room, and then I pray, and then afterward I write in my journal, I read a little, and then I write my things that I'm grateful for. And you can't not like, well, you're an expert, right? Neurochemically,
Yeah.
it's good for you. What's a great tip you can share with our, because we didn't cover this in the interview. What's a great tip you can share with our viewers and listeners about how to practice gratitude
Yes,
regularly?
absolutely. So you've got the nice foundational piece, which is just to practice the writing down, the getting in touch with the gratitude. Where the
Right.
real magic starts to happen is there's 2 layers you can deepen that right out of the gates. The first layer is not just to write it down, but practice feeling gratitude.
Mm,
So if you're writing someone's name down, call that person's face to your mind's eye and see if you can practice. Where does gratitude live in my body? Where do I notice it? Is there a color that goes behind it? Is there something deeper that I can get in touch with gratitude in my physical form, my emotion set, my mental realm, my spiritual realm? So really diving deeply into the feeling set of gratitude will amplify that smiling feeling that you get when you leave your prayer room. It actually deepens it when you practice feeling the gratitude, because some people will get into this habit with jotting gratitude down where it's like, boom, 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 done. I did my gratitude for the day. And that's not really giving yourself the full value of a gratitude practice. But when you practice feeling it, and then the next step is to actually express it to those people that you're documenting. If
right.
there's somebody that you actually know that you're in close relationship with, that you have a good relationship with, please tell them that they were on your gratitude list that day. If there's somebody that you're practicing feeling grateful for, that you have a challenged relationship, what might it look like to be grateful for them and to express it to them in real time? Or if it's somebody that you're grateful for that's no longer here, how can you develop that spiritual connection with the relationship of them no longer being in physical form? So there's even a spiritual element. Maybe you're practicing gratitude for your home. How do you express gratitude to your home? Right. So
Right.
it's taking it a couple steps deeper. That's really when things start to unfold in a really magical way.
Well, Rayanne, you touched on an important one. That's something I've just started doing actually within the past couple of months. Actually, texting the
Yeah.
person that I'm grateful for, because the one things that I'm grateful for and I write it down as people, and I write down 3 people that I'm grateful for from the previous day, and then I send if it's the first time that I've written their name down, I send them a text, and then it's
Mhm.
just a standard text that says, "Hey, you were in my gratitude journal." So
Yeah.
that is something that I've already incorporated. So I'm glad to see that I'm on the right track. But the other one you mentioned was, practicing putting yourself, visualizing that person, and
Mhm.
really just putting yourself in that situation. Why am I grateful for Rayanne
Yeah.
coming into my life, being a part of the Why Not Leadership and the Lead Different podcast, and the relationship that we've developed and the friendships that we've connected. Those are important things to really deepen that gratitude. So thank you for sharing that. I know that, and you can tell that Rayanne is a pro, because she's just like, I threw that question at her out of the blue, and she was ready to go with it. The other thing, that I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, is she's got a guitar back there. I've got a saxophone there. So Rayanne, when we get together, we're gonna have to jam, and we
So
we just
much
got to find
fun.
us a lead singer. Can you
Oh,
sing?
that's yeah, I would rather sing than play the guitar. The
All
guitar
right.
is a new practice, but I am a singer. Yeah. And I
Oh, yeah.
actually play the saxophone too. So we would
Oh,
have a lot of fun, Dan.
oh, let's jam. So we're gonna have to get you out to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Tell the viewers where you are in the world.
I'm in upstate New York. Yes.
Upstate New York. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting to upstate New York, especially this time of year.
Let's trade, right? I'll come down to you in the winter and you come
Absolutely.
up
And
to
you
me
know
in the
what? There's
summer.
got to be a way for us to do that. So let's think about that. And I know you and I are going to stay in touch through your mastermind group, through
Yes.
Jonathan and the work that he's doing. So anything you want to add before we go to the live show, and then maybe we'll hop on the chat. And guys, if you're listening quietly, here's the thing I'll tell you, viewers and listeners, I know what happens. You're listening and you're saying, oh, what a great idea I just got. And I don't know about you, Rayanne, and if you appear on podcasts, but I get people that I'll get on the phone for the first time, and they'll say, Dan, oh, I've been listening to your podcast for the last 6 months. And I'm like, I would have never known that if you hadn't told me. Would
Yeah.
you mind hitting the like button, giving me a comment every once in a while so that we know that you're there? So those of you silent watchers and viewers and listeners, give us a like, send us a comment. We're going to be here. We're going to air the episode here in a few seconds. And what we're going to do is Raeanne and I are going to be looking at the comments. So if you comment on Facebook, on YouTube, or on LinkedIn, we're going to be here and to answer your questions or even think about your comments and give our thoughts. So without any further ado, Raeanne, give us one last word and we'll get it started.
Yeah. So not just, show up within the conversation, but also if there's something that you want to be held accountable to, there's no better way than to put it out there in the world on social media. And so if there's something that you're hearing or listening that you want to implement for yourself, whether it be in your life or your business, throw a comment there. This is a time that Dan and I, we're coaches. We're here for you. And so if there's something that we can give you as a thought or a different way of thinking about things or something to hold you accountable, something we can support you on, I'd also throw our hat in the ring for that too.
Love that. And you know what? I love accountability. So that's a fun thing. I have accountability partners all over the world that for different things. So that's a great practice. So throw it in the chat. Let us know. And Sunil, why don't we go ahead and start the episode?
Redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest this week. Raeanne Lacatena is the CEO and business coach at Raeanne Lacatena Holistic Business Coaching. She is a holistic business, life, and success coach, an author, a licensed counselor with nearly 20 years of experience. She leverages her expertise to help clients maximize their unique abilities, utilize their personalized self-care tools, and overcome obstacles to achieve their best lives. Raeanne believes that who you are anywhere is who you are everywhere, and everyone already has everything they need to be the best version of themselves. Please welcome to the show, Raeanne Lacatena. How are you, Raeanne?
I'm so well. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me and for the kind introduction.
Well, thank you for being here, Raeanne. We had a quick introduction from our good friend Adam, and as soon as I got off the phone with you, I knew I wanted you to be a guest on the show because there's a lot that you do that really resonates with what we do at Lead Different and how we start everything that we do with the why discovery. So I wanted to make sure and have you on and just kind of continue that conversation, because if I enjoyed that conversation, I knew that our fellow coaches and the listeners of the Lead Different podcast would enjoy hearing from you. Tell us a little bit more about what it means to be a holistic business coach. I want everyone to hear your definition of it.
Yes, absolutely. As you heard, I started my career as a counselor, and so I really have a strong background in mindset work and belief work, and therefore limiting belief work. And what I've learned is that entrepreneurs, they have a lot of drama in their brains as well. And so I was able to really take a lot of the skills and the development that I had over the many years as a counselor and bring it into the entrepreneurial space to help entrepreneurs really live the happiest, healthiest, wealthiest lives possible. And so we really do a lot of even reprogramming of the brain. We do a lot of mindset work. We really bring in all of the different parts of the entrepreneur into focus so that they can really enjoy their lives, their businesses, whether they're parents or caretakers or pet owners. Everything that you do in your life doesn't need to be compartmentalized into different spaces. It is all of who you are. And so instead of ignoring parts of our lives that might be troubling us or parts of our lives that might be challenging, we bring it all into focus and really create a wholeness in the entrepreneur, an integrated entrepreneur, so that they can borrow the things that they're doing well, again, in parenting and bring it into their business, or something that they're really successful at in business and apply it to their relationships and other ways in their life. And so we'll bring all of these parts of the entrepreneur together and looking for ways, not just strategically, which is I call the masculine side of business, into focus. We need to do the tactics, the number, the revenue. How are we going to really build and leverage the business? But we also need to look at the more feminine side of business: communication, collaboration, relationships, adventure, spontaneity. And so we bring all of those things together for them to have that whole experience of entrepreneurship.
All right, I picked something up there. There's a lot you said, and let's break it all down. The first part is I love how you integrate the entire person into your coaching, because honestly, what I have found, you can try to coach just leadership,
Right.
or just business, or just life. But guess what? They're all intertwined. And I love the fact that you interweave all of it and you address all of it. But at the end, you talked about something that might be a little controversial for some people. You talked about the feminine and the masculine side, and you talked about different traits that you see. I know they're not generally for everyone, but tell me about how you see the masculine side of leadership and the feminine side in your coaching.
The first thing that can clear up some of the controversial nature is that it's not about man versus woman. It is an energy of masculine and feminine. I work with both men and women in my practice, and there are men who have those feminine traits or are looking to bring those feminine traits into their business. For example, very male-dominated industries where there's this push, force, grind, hierarchical approach to business that just doesn't suit some entrepreneurs, and looking how to create a more collaborative environment. That's actually feminine. That's a feminine energy trait. Or on the other side of things, in that same masculine dominated industry, a woman maybe had to take on more typically masculine traits. Again, not about man versus woman, but they end up stifling some of their natural feminine elements in their experience. And so really bringing into focus the harmony between those two energies, that's what we're looking to do when we talk about the masculine and feminine.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. That is so important, Raeanne, because I absolutely agree with you. And we went through an exercise, discovering your why, and I can definitely see some of those traits are very traditionally masculine energy, and some of those are traditionally feminine energy. And that's why we have a mom and a dad, right? Because dad brings that masculine energy, and then in some homes, mom brings some of that masculine energy. Sometimes it's the mom that's the hard ass that says, "Hey, do your work." In our home, we have a rule: it's work first, then play. And my little 12-year-old, not so little anymore, she remembers that, but that's not a dad rule. That's a mom rule. We get our stuff done and then we get to play. And that might be more of a masculine energy type of thing. Whereas I'm really the fun, hey, let's sit, let's read, let's talk, and I know that that's probably more of the connecting with people,
Yes.
At a deeper level. That's probably more of a feminine trait, but I like the way you talk about it as an energy, not so much as men versus women. So thank you for that clarification. So, well, let's talk about it since we brought it up. One of the things that we did, and as I do with almost everyone that I bring on the show, is you and I went through your Y operating system, your Y OS, and your results came back very, very complementary to mine. So we have a couple of things in common, but also with its own twist. So your why came back as contribute, someone who wants to contribute and make a difference, be part of a bigger cause, and make a difference in the lives of others. Your how came back as challenge, someone who likes to challenge the status quo, do things outside the box, and ask the question, why do we have to do it that way? And your what came back as trust, someone who likes to build relationships based on trust. You like to be counted on, and you like to be able to count on others. So your why is contribute. You want to contribute to the success of others. How you contribute is by challenging the status quo, doing things different and out of the box. And ultimately, what your clients can count on from you is someone they can trust to do what they say they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel to you when we first did it? And how does it feel now that you've sat with it for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I remember that when I saw my contribute and the trust, the two bookends there that you described, it was like, yes, of course, 100% all in. I've known since I was a little girl that I wanted to contribute, that I wanted to be a helper, that I wanted to make a difference in the lives of others. And I have followed that path steadfastly through my entire life and continue to do so now in my career and in my life in many ways. And then trust or, in some ways that it's a version of integrity too. Those are two of my strongest values as a human and as a business owner, almost to a fault, right? That we talked about that a little bit in our conversation, that trust is so incredibly important to me. And, not everybody behaves in the same way that I would want them or prefer them to behave as human beings. And so, yes, trust is definitely important to me. The challenge, that middle one that you mentioned, that one I needed your coaching on when you read my results. And it's so funny because now already in our conversation, we haven't even been speaking that long, you mentioned the controversial way that I think of things. And now that I understand what challenge means, I can see how maybe I do challenge the status quo more than I had given myself credit for. And that I do look at things differently than others. Simply being a holistic entrepreneur, an integrated entrepreneur, not many people are doing that. They're not thinking about both the mindset and the strategy. And it's commonplace for me in my world because I do this all day, every day, and I have for many, many years. I've been a coach now for almost 14 years. And so it's just my life. And you reminded me that the things that I stand for actually challenge the status quo. And so I was able to settle into that a little bit better and fully own it a little bit better now that you've given me a little coaching on what that means, which was really interesting to go through.
That is really cool. Thank you so much for sharing so much about what it meant, because it's one of the reasons we connected. So my why is contribute, my how is challenge, and I have a different what. My what is make sense. So we differ a little bit there. But I remember just when we got on the phone, one of the questions I ask when I give the workshop with teams that are discovering their YOS is I ask the question: have you ever noticed how some people you connect with almost immediately?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, within a minute, you're like, oh my gosh, I really like this person. Well, Raeanne and I see the world a lot alike. We both care about contributing and making a difference. And we both do it by doing things outside of the box and different. You mentioned something that's really cool I want to dig into. And you'll probably know who this author is, but it's about mindset. It says, you are who you think you are all day long. And I don't remember who said it, but it is so true. And who you are is really who you are. The discovery is not about, finding out something new. I think you've known this about yourself probably your whole life. You just now have language to express it. And then you brought something else up that I definitely want to talk about. You've written a couple of books, but you've got a book coming up called The Integrated Entrepreneur. And you brought that up, how we are, we've talked about it already a little bit. Tell us about the book, The Integrated Entrepreneur. Where does it come from?
Thank you for asking. Yes, this is something that it's been quite a journey. I never really saw myself as an author naturally. And in 2024, I've launched 2 books, which is pretty incredibly outside of my plan here. And so I'm excited to bring it to the world. The Integrated Entrepreneur is a book that I wrote solely myself that's scheduled to come out in the summer of 2024. And it really is a culmination of all that we've already sort of briefly touched on. It's how do we be integrated, not compartmentalize who we are? How do we have that holistic expression of our business and our lives? How do we do that? What does that look like? And why is it important? Because we really see that we as entrepreneurs have a really important mission in the world. I really see there's so much urgency happening and so much that needs to be done and so much that is hurting, so many people that are hurting. And I believe that the entrepreneurs in the world are some of the greatest difference makers because they are those innovative thinkers. They are those risk takers. They are willing to take on more than the status quo, and to learn how to do so while protecting themselves is really important. And what I mean by that is, instead of taking a risk for the sake of foolishly maybe even taking a risk, it's how do I make sure that my energy is safe? How do I make sure that my wellness, my physical, emotional, spiritual, across all realms, that I'm healthy mentally, emotionally, financially, and that I'm taking those risks? Because if we do one or the other, that's when things start to fall off the rails. And so I give throughout the book stories from my own clients' experiences, from my own personal experience. I shared more in this book that I have ever shared with anyone, naturally as an introvert, to be able to share this with the world, some stories to illustrate
what it looks like to use some of the tools. And in each chapter, I also share some integrations, some ways that you can actually workbook and use the tools in real time to bring all of this together into a whole experience for yourself. So I'm really excited for it to be brought to the world. And I can't wait to hear the difference that it makes in the lives of others. There's been a few people who've already read it, and some people who've already didn't even see entrepreneurship on the radar, who've decided to become business owners as a result of reading this book. And so I can't wait to see what it does as a ripple effect of change in the world as well. Oh, Dan, we lost your audio for a second.
That sounds like a great recommendation, Raeanne, for your own book, but I really love everything that you included in it. And, one of the things that I like to about doing this show and about meeting people is learning where this stuff comes from. And it sounds like in the book, you're gonna share some things that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of those things right now. I like to find out where people's why comes from. So, when we know that you've always wanted to contribute and make a difference. So, I'll give you an example. Like for me, I had some great mentors starting in middle school. I remember having a great principal who just really saw potential in me and invested in me and gave me the opportunities that I might not have had based on where I was socioeconomically and academically. And so I've always, and she was one of many, many amazing mentors I've had in my life. And I think they had such an impact on me that I always wanted to give back. So that's kind of where it started for me.
Right.
Where did for you, if you could go back and say, you know what, I bet that's why I think it's so important to give back.
Oh, there's so many of those examples. And I shared many of them in the book. The one that is very, very impactful that I'd like to share first is that one of the first jobs that I had as a social worker, as a counselor, was in pediatric palliative care. And so I helped children with life-threatening illnesses march through their disease, through their illness, and sometimes to their death, if the disease claimed their lives, unfortunately. And I have to say, this was in my early 20s that I did this work, and I got a crash course in life, Dan. I saw some things that some people never see in their lives. And of course, these weren't my losses. However, I was adjacent to these losses, and I learned more about the world and the big questions and the fragility of life that some people don't face until many, 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 many years into their experience. I got a healthy appreciation about how tomorrow is not guaranteed and that really terrible things can happen. And so don't sweat the small stuff. And also, there's a lot of work to be done and some very important work that needs to be accomplished. And so live each day to the fullest, be grateful for each breath, these things that I use all of the time and teach my clients now. Another really important one was I would sit around the table in this work with so many incredible experts, oncologists, doctors, nurses, physical therapists, massage therapists, all different types of professionals in the effort to create a wellness plan under some pretty egregious experiences. And so I fully integrated into my experience the importance of well-rounded wellness. And these little babies and kids, these are my teachers of that. And it really locked it into my experience fully because it was such a difficult thing to watch.
I don't know too many people that can do what you did and be able to speak about it joyfully and about the lessons that you learned. I can't imagine walking young people, children, as you said, to their death, right? Being with them on that journey. But the lesson, I think, and I think it's, we talk about it on Lead Different, and we talk about it at Why Not Leadership, is when it comes to the end of our life, we don't regret the things we did. We're going to regret the things we didn't do. And I read that in a book called The Top Regrets of the Dying, and she was a palliative care nurse
Yeah.
who talked about those things. We don't wish we'd spent more time at our office, right? We don't wish we'd finished that to-do list, but we do wish we'd maybe spent more time with our children, with our parents, with our siblings. What was the hardest part that you saw? Maybe let's talk about for not from the suffering person perspectives, but from the family. And you probably, I'm sure you dealt with the families too. What was the hardest thing that you dealt with in terms of dealing with the families?
Mhm. Well, there's the personal difficulty that I had, but also the witnessing of the families. Every family member, every single family member experienced the loss differently.
Mhm.
And you could have one parent who was able to take such a difficult experience, like maybe I would argue one of the worst things that could happen to someone, which was an incredible suffering, and take that suffering and decide this is going to be, I'm going to make my child's name live on. I'm going to create a legacy for them. I'm going to look into policy and politics and insurance changes and massive changes in bills to help other future children not have to go through the same kind of suffering or the same access of resource difficulties, and turn it into some charities or charitable giving or foundations to really see them carry that name on in service to their child, but also for all the other children that are experiencing this. While we have another parent who is in the same family, or one of the other kiddos, the siblings in the family, and experience that so very differently. Of course, we see some people crumble. We see some people, everyone is devastated, right? The workers, the families, there is a blanket to devastation, and we can't ignore that was really challenging. But also sometimes people don't recover from that devastation, and that was really hard to watch. And what I meant by me personally is that I learned during this time, I had a hunch, but I didn't really know what it meant at the time. I'm an empath, and so I feel things more deeply than others maybe feel things, and I hear and see things differently than others. And so while it is kind of you to say, I don't know how you did this work, there are still doctors and nurses and practitioners that are around that table, and I'm not, to be completely fair, right? And I did that work for, I think it was like between 5 and 7 years, first adjacently and then directly with the program that I worked with. And there are still those just special souls that are able to do that work, and they're made and built to do that work. And I so honor them. And I'm so grateful for the experience that I had to do the work, that I started to see my body fall apart because of being in proximity to this challenging work. However, I learned about what it meant to be an empath, and I learned how to steward that better in service to, first, the clients that I serviced then, but then also moving into other versions and iterations of my career moving forward. And now, as a mom of 3 children, a 2, a 4, and a 6-year-old, it creates a whole different experience of what it means to be a mom and a business owner, a wife and a business owner. And so every single day, I'm grateful for those experiences. Of course, I would not have preferred for any of it to happen to those kids. And I hope in some ways the families that I took care of know that their legacy lives even through me and the service that I bring to my clients and to the world, because they had such an incredible impact on me.
Wow. Couple of things. I love that you brought that up because I was going to say it. I think the experience, everything we do prepares us for the next step.
Yeah.
And so I know that that was incredibly hard for you. And as a contributor, as someone who cares about people, who wants to make a difference, and who is a connector, and trust is there too.
Yeah.
You probably took it harder than most people. You have to be more almost detached a little bit to be able to do that in the long term. So 5 to 7 years was probably 25 years worth for someone who is not an
I
empath,
got
right?
25 years worth of lessons, that's for sure.
Yes. And that was my next question. And I think you started to answer it, but I'd like to dig into it a little bit more. How has that experience shaped coaching? Because honestly, when we work with clients and we're talking to them, we're really getting into that deep stuff that as Mindy Honkoop, who I had on a few weeks ago, said, Dan, humans are messy. And we've just got to get in there and figure out what's going on. So what are some of the things, and I love that you brought up the legacy, the things you learned from those families and those children that you worked with, are being honored in the work that you do today. So what's the most transferable skill that you bring from your time as a person dealing with end of life in young people, and now working with professionals and individuals that are entrepreneurs trying to make that dream work?
Part of what it means to be an integrative entrepreneur is that I believe all skills are transferable one way or another. And so there is not one particular one, like just even completely surface level. I've served entrepreneurs who've had children who's passed away. And so I have a context that maybe a different entrepreneur didn't have because of that experience. And when I work with an entrepreneur who's going through something like, whether it's a loss of a child or inevitably, I work with some clients for over a decade at this point in straight succession, and they lose loved ones and they grieve and they suffer. And so it gives me a different kind of context to be able to support them through the inevitable messiness of being a human being. And so that in and of itself, everything that I learned as a mental health practitioner comes in respectfully, and I'm not their counselor. However, I'm using cognitive behavioral therapy, emotional freedom technique. I'm using a lot of the evidence-based practices, and I'm offering them for their own wellness right from those early days of my career. So all transferable with 100% certainty. One that feels the most important for me to say, though, is that what I noticed in the people that I work with, because I know I'm not a right fit for everybody. It would be a problem to think if I was. I noticed that my entrepreneurs, they also have this desire for impact. And when you go through something like this, not always exactly the same circumstance, but you've had a brush with your own mortality, or someone that you've loved in their mortality, or something big and scary and not so good happened in their life, it usually gives a new perspective and a context that creates an urgency and a commitment to impact that maybe others don't have. And also, I don't go to the surface space with my people either, Dan. I go to the depths with them, and I don't do, for example, on that masculine side, accountability only coaching. We don't only look at the books or the revenue. While we need to, and we do, and we pay attention because business is still business. Right. We also integrate much deeper conversation, larger mission for the internal presentation of that and the here as a human being and everything in between. And so the people that come to me have this urgency and commitment for impact and mission that maybe someone else who's just looking for numbers and revenue wouldn't find satisfying or even interesting in working with me.
I'm glad you brought that up, Raeanne, because one of the things, and we're going to go can we go a little deeper into you, because a lot of our and coaches. And so one of the things that and we talked about in your debrief, the 9 whys, which is the basis of everything we do at Why Not Leadership. There are 9 whys, and we all have a little bit of all of them. But your number 4 and number 5 are mastery and clarify and mastery. So that clarity is important to you, and that mastery you talked about. You don't just go surface level. We're going to go deep if you're working with Raeanne. Those are a good number 4 and 5. Considering the work that you do. And then the other thing that if I'm going to ask for your permission to kind of just go through an example and see how it resonates with you, because your ideal client really can be found through your YOS. And this is work that I do. But as you were bringing it up, you said, look, the clients that I work with have a desire for impact, right? So one of the things we do together, and this is, hey, we'll call it a freebie for Raeanne, right? You're looking for clients who are looking for someone to help them make a difference.
Yeah.
That's the contribute in you. You're looking for clients who are willing to do things out of the box and different. So you want, if they want just a business coach, that's not for you. If they want somebody to just help them with their strategy, that's not for you. You want someone who wants to integrate everything. And so you're going to challenge the status quo and do it differently. So if you're looking for a client who's looking for someone who's going to challenge them to do it differently, and then you're looking for clients who are looking for someone they can trust. So if we integrate all 3, are those ideal clients for you? If they're looking to make a difference, they're looking to be challenged and do it differently, and they're looking for someone they can trust, right? And so that's our formula. And then we put that into everything we do. Simon Sinek famously said, if you tell people what you believe, you'll attract people who believe what you believe. And so that becomes that client formula. So there, for those of you listening, when you think about your YOS and you think about Raeanne, that's who you're looking for. And so if you're looking at Raeanne as a potential person that you want to call for help, a two-time best-selling author. And by the way, we didn't even talk about your first book, Raeanne. So you did a book with a little known guy. I mean, just a guy who knows I think he knows a little bit about business, Tony Robbins. And
Yeah.
that book was called Cracking the Rich Code. So that was your first book in 2024. And now
Yeah.
you're already on your second book. Talk about proximity to greatness leading to even more. Tell us about what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I was well into writing my full-length book, The Integrated Entrepreneur, and this is a huge props to LinkedIn, because I had decided and committed about 2 years ago, maybe even longer at this point, to really show up and build a personal brand on LinkedIn, and to really put as much into the world as possible, again, in an effort to have impact. And Jim Britt, who is Tony Robbins' former coach and still very closely in relationship with Tony, he has this Cracking the Rich Code series, and LinkedIn, the algorithm brought us together, and Jim said, I love what you're doing. Would you like to meet? And I met with him, and he said, your framework that you are looking to teach in the Integrated Entrepreneur, this is something that more people in the world need. I absolutely would love if you'd write a chapter in Cracking the Rich Code. And of course I was honored, and I said, okay, I guess I'm writing 2 books this year. And so right in between writing The Integrated Entrepreneur, I got this beautiful opportunity and gift from Jim Britt and Tony, and became a co-authored first international bestseller with them. And that book came out and launched in one day as an international bestseller in March. And so it's been fun. It's 20 authors from all over the world, which is another incredible gift from LinkedIn, is that, and the Cracking the Rich Code, is it's just expanded the horizons. Up until this point, I was primarily a United States-based coach, and I have been meeting with some of the most amazing people around the world and learning new cultures and ways of being, and different presentations of even entrepreneurship, which is so fun. But also, Cracking the Rich Code is not just about, again, revenue. It's also what they mean when they say the rich code. They mean a fulfilling life. They mean a life of significance. They mean that legacy and what it looks like in the mental, emotional space, as well as the relational space. And so it was very aligned from a holistic approach to wealth building and entrepreneurship. And so I gladly submitted a chapter, and have joined this crew of incredible people from around the world.
Congratulations on that. And I truly appreciate that good vibes about LinkedIn and how it brings us together with the right people. I'm collaborating with people in New Zealand and Australia because of the international connection that you can make. Those are hard people to get a hold of, though, because our time zones are so messed up. When it's 5 o'clock here, it's 9 in the morning there. So, and I'm an early bird, so if I'm having a morning meeting, I want to have it at 7 in the morning. Well, that's really late their time, and vice versa in the afternoon. So we have to get creative on those times. But congratulations on both of your books. I think both of them have the ability to make an impact on people. I know that your first book already has, and those of you who have had a chance to read the second book, I'm kind of jealous. I can't wait for it to come out. You have a summer launch. How can we help you? If somebody's interested, Raeanne, should we just follow you on LinkedIn? Is that the best place for us to know when the book comes out?
That's where I spend most of my time, is on LinkedIn for sure. But if anyone is interested and truly wants to follow along, I have a little gift that might help in the process. I have a quiz, actually, that is very fun. It's called the Integrated Entrepreneur Energy Archetype Quiz. And so this thing that we brought up in the beginning of our call today, this is a quiz to help you see whether you're leaning more into the masculine energy, whether you have a little bit more distortion in your approach to the masculine energy. And there's a spectrum all the way over to a balanced approach, or the feminine healthy, or a distorted version of the feminine energy. And so there's different archetypes that you'll answer the questions, and it'll tell you exactly how you're being. And then it'll give you some real concrete ways that you can begin integrating those energies to be a more balanced presentation. So it's a first look at what it means to be an integrated entrepreneur, to be in balance and harmony with your masculine and feminine. And it's a totally free quiz. And once you take that quiz, you'll be in my world more fully, and I'll be sure to let you know when the book officially launches in the summer of 2024. So I'd love to have you first just get a little bit of a taste for yourself, and then also join us at the book launch. That would be phenomenal.
So Raeanne, did we get the URL correct there? RaeanneLacatena.com/energy quiz.
Yes.
So, go there, because I know I'm going to do it. I can't wait. I've often been told that as a matter of fact, so you'll love this, Raeanne. What am I telling you if you're going to love it? Let's see if you love it. Tell me if you love it. We had when I was at the Y Institute, myself and Gary, we were both in our 50s, early 60s. And then we had a bunch of young millennials working with us. And we did some work where we took a similar survey and tried to figure out who we are. And the joke was Dan's a female millennial at the end of that. So I'm always interested whether these things say the same things about us as we continue to do that. So RaeanneLacatena.com/energy quiz is where you want to go. I'll leave that up for a little while so that our listeners can grab that and get into your mailing list and learn more about this holistic approach to coaching. So Raeanne, we're near the end here. And one of the things I want to ask you about is your biggest why not moment, a moment in your life, a time in your life when you said why not to an opportunity, a career change, a big decision, and you're so glad you said why not. It goes along with what we talked about earlier. We don't regret the things we did. We regret the things we didn't do. So it's something you might have in the past said, no, I'm not going to do that. And you said, why not? I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. So tell us about that why not moment for you.
The really interesting thing about my why not is that I actually am naturally an employee-minded person. I never saw myself as a business owner. I never imagined being a business owner. I actually had a private practice in counseling for 15, 16, maybe even 17 years before even realizing that I was a business owner, being a private practitioner as a counselor. I never connected the dots that in having a private counseling practice, I was actually a business owner. And I see this over and over and over and over again with the service-based artists, a lot of those more feminine leaning business owners. They have a hard time really owning that they're a business owner. And I was one of those people. I worked for the first part of my career, I worked for someone else as an employee who was teaching entrepreneurship. And I had this moment, it was now almost 4 years ago, where I needed to be in full integrity and say, not only am I a teacher of business, but I am leading from the front and I am engaging in business. And so I took that leap of faith. I said, why not? Even though it seems uncomfortable for me in massive ways to step out of the consistency and the structure and building something for someone else, I took that leap of faith and I dove in head first to business ownership. And so now I'm not only teaching entrepreneurship and living it, and it feels like more integrity and more people can trust me as a business owner. And to be able to do so successfully as an integrated entrepreneur, honoring being a parent, being a wife, being all of these different things that I am, and a successful business owner really helps me to feel, again, more integrated for myself and the people that I serve. And I am so grateful that I did. I've now understood more fully that I actually am more entrepreneurial minded than I had ever given myself credit for. And I'm having the time of my life being a business owner. It is so much fun and so expansive and so challenging in the best ways that I will never look back. Never look back.
Well, I want to bring, I thought that would be my last question, but I cannot skip over the fact, how old are your kids?
2, 4, and 6.
2, 4, and 6. You've got 3 under 6 in your home.
Yes.
You're running a thriving coaching practice. You've authored 2 books. That is a tremendous testament to your ability to, number one, handle multiple things very successfully. And then also to be open to you said, why not, to let's have some kids, right? And not only one, but you went ahead and had 3 of them in very quick succession. I know there are moms that are listening and
Yeah.
they're trying to balance it all.
Yeah.
And, I know that, I have my own daughter who is, 35-year-old mother of two, and she's a marketing director for a big, Fortune 100 company, and she's balancing that all.
Yeah.
What secrets, what are some of the keys to being able to balance and be present, as you said,
Yeah.
for your clients who are very much in need of your time, your family, and your three young kids, and then the other pressures that come that we place on ourselves, especially as contributors who want to make a difference to as many people as possible.
Yeah. I also have, I'm looking over here because I have two dogs who are snoring loudly, and I don't know if you can hear them or not, but like just that adds to the chaos, as you can imagine. So like two dogs, three kids, all the things. And the thing that I'll offer here that really makes a big difference for the people that I serve, who are also very often in that chaotic experience with all these different pulling responsibilities and spinning plates. A lot of parent business owners will come to work with me for that very same reason, because I'm teaching them and supporting them and guiding them and mentoring them in what you call balance, but I would challenge and say harmony. So many people will try to achieve balance and think they're failing if they don't have that. It implies this scale that you're feeling perfectly balanced at home and perfectly balanced in business, and it needs to look like this for you to be doing it right. And it never looks like this, Dan. It never looks like this. It is more, I think of like an infinity symbol when I'm sort of illustrating this. It's more of a dance between the worlds, or not to sound self-serving, but that's what it means to be an integrated entrepreneur. That's what the entire book is about. And I share in the book some of the greatest challenges that I have as a mom who is also a business owner, and how the things that I teach in that book help you to create harmony over balance in the experience of life and business. And what that looks like in marriage, because again, not a 50-50 split, that there's this give and take that happens in relationships, whether it's a client relationship, a parenting relationship, a marriage, a business, a partnership. We're never at a 50-50 divide, that we are dancing between those worlds and finding what works for us, which is the other important piece that I'll leave you with, is that first of all, you have to figure out what having it all means for you. Not everybody wants to be a parent. Not everybody wants to be a business owner. So really knowing internally, authentically, what is aligned with me to be having it all and to pursuing what it is I choose. Because if you're just listening to what society or what someone else is telling you is right for you, you're always going to be dissatisfied. And so part of the work is to go inward to figure it out what that means for you. And then again, decide, how do I create this harmony that is also aligned for me? That, just to use the parenting example, so I can support your daughter and the other parents out there who are listening, that some parents need to decide that a nanny would be the solution to create harmony at home, and that some people prefer the traditional educational system and want daycare and school, and some, their harmony looks like, I'm going to business owner focus for 10 hours a week, and I'm going to be a full-time mom the rest of that time. And all of it is right. But if you don't go within to find out what it looks like for you personally, you're always going to be out of balance, out of harmony, frustrated and unfulfilled. So there's a lot of, again, inner work that needs to happen to create that pathway that suits you as a human being, very specifically.
Wow. I am so glad I added that question, Raeanne. That was a wonderful answer, and I can tell why people must love working with you. And you brought up the parenting. I said, you've got to have some help with those three kids. So there's someone there. There's a co-parent that's helping too. And
yeah, no one's busting in here naked today, right?
oh yeah, well, that will happen. One of the things I started doing on my Zoom call, so I wouldn't get what they call Zoom fatigue, is turn off my self view. So, and that's one of the things that's important when you do that, is leave the door in front of you, not behind you, because then you might have a dancing naked kid behind you and not even know it. And the people on the Zoom call are like, hey, Raeanne, you might want to take care of that back there, right?
Nothing over here yet.
That is so fun.
And the people that I work with, they come to me for that harmony. And so even if it does happen, they're the most loving, forgiving, awesome people in the world who are like, oh, there's your child.
They're your people, right? Your people get that. The people that are looking for someone, they're looking to make a difference, that are looking to do it differently. And the people that are looking for someone they can trust, they're not going to have a problem with that.
No.
They're not looking for that. We're going to find someone else for them. And that's okay too, right?
Yes, they should probably find someone else if they if they want predictability.
Yes, that's not going to happen here. Well, Raeanne, this has been a wonderful conversation. I have really enjoyed. I thought I knew you, and I learned so much. And I know our listeners are going to get a ton of value from hearing your wisdom, your experience, and your approach to coaching, to life, and to parenting, and to everything that you bring to the world. We are so excited to support you in your journey to launch your new book. And we look forward to hearing about it. And don't forget, guys, to go to raeannelacatena.com and make sure you grab that energy quiz /energy quiz and support Raeanne in her efforts to bring her positive energy to the world. Raeanne, what do you say we end the show on that note?
I love it. Thank you so much for having me, Dan. I appreciate you.
Why not, right? Thank you so much, Raeanne. Have a great rest of your week. We look forward to airing this episode. I think we're going to be, we're looking for a July air date. So thank you for being on, and I look forward to continuing this relationship. Have a great rest of your week. And why not, leaders? We'll see you next week.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.